Hi everyone, Jodie here, back with another video. Sorry, I didn't get a video out yesterday because it was a pretty busy weekend. So got time now, and on with what I wanted to talk about today is cases. Um, so it's just a really brief overview on what cases is, and a little bit of a demo of how it all looks and feels. So cases is basically the object that introduces you to Service Cloud. So if you have a customer service sort of program, policies or procedures internally that manages complaints or issues or people inquiring about how to resolve something you need a solution for. It could be a resolution point of view of compensation. It could need escalating because maybe they're signed up to some sort of service that technically is broken, and you need that escalation of a priority one sort of, what's the word? Prioritization. So this is truly the object that will give you your users the 360 view of the customer. That gets thrown around a lot in the Salesforce ecosystem. So basically, we've gone through the whole sales cycle and we've completed that, and they're now a customer. They've bought something, they've subscribed to something, they are associated with with us now. So ongoing from that, how do they communicate with us, and how does that get managed in Salesforce, and how does it, now that it gets managed in Salesforce, how and what's the benefit of other departments within your organization of being able to see that information? So I'm just going to, as I normally do, that is share my screen. When you click on the 9 dots, you get this screen, which is basically showing you the apps that exist in Salesforce. And what a Salesforce app is basically the consolidation view of particular objects. So with Service app, you're going to see accounts, contacts, tasks, and cases. With the Sales app, you'll see leads, opportunities, accounts and contacts, tasks, reports, dashboards, that type of thing. Things that are more relevant to the role. So when you think about that, that's how you can even create your own app, because you might have certain profiles that need to see certain information. But what we've got here, I'm logged into a developer org, so it's essentially it's a enterprise edition. But we're talking from service side. So when we log into the Service app, we're going to be presented with how we can create a case, how we can view cases. And one of the decision-making things that you'd need to probably do is decide on, what level of each profile you want. Do you want them to be do you want your users to be able to create cases manually? Do you want them to be able to edit them? Do you want them to be able to delete them? So you definitely decide on that, so then you can update permissions and profiles, etc. The other thing to be aware of is in your planning phase of how do you receive inbound issues, complaints, how do you currently manage those sides of things with existing customers? Is it just spreadsheet, and how does this, or how could it now possibly look with Salesforce? So you can update and configure this homepage that someone logs into so that you can actually see probably a quicker glance of number of cases, active cases, their status that they're currently sitting in. And the other thing that you might want to start thinking about is workflow. So how much of this stuff can you automate based on the date that a case was created, its level of escalation or priority, and its current status. So there's a couple of ways to create a manual case. So you can click on the cases object, as we do with every other object in Salesforce, and you can click the button to create a new one. And again, like every other thing, if there's something here that doesn't exist, sorry, I'm like, there was something under my chair, then you can create a custom field, absolutely 100%. A couple of things I just wanted to identify, and again, this is just a really basic overview on cases, but how beneficial this could be and where your thought process may want to go. So you've got the status field, and you can update this pick list with other statuses that match to your internal process. But new working escalator closed, you might have a resolution phase or a compensation status, that type of thing. But the status becomes really quite important because this is a field that can fire off workflow. So as an example, you could have a workflow that looks at the created date and time and the status still equaling new after a period of time. So that specified period of time, what happens? Should it be escalated to a manager? Does it need to go have a task created or an email sent? So I love working with statuses because you can be really quite creative with it. You can really start getting your automation going. When you look at escalated, again, it's workflow, it's email, it's task created. Does it need to go to does the case need to change ownership? So when you're looking at your planning and you're working through things, because this is of course, it's not a spreadsheet anymore, you can nominate a Salesforce user to be the case owner, and you can also introduce case queues or queues, Salesforce queues. And what that means is people are pretty used to using distribution groups with email, etc. What it is that you can actually assign Salesforce users as members of a queue. So it might be a different product, different service, different areas that have different queues, and different people are members of those queues. And then when a case is assigned, so at the moment I'm the case owner, but when the case is assigned, you can actually assign it to the queue straight away. And then your users can be notified, because through that distribution, they'd get an email or a task created, whatever you decide. And then they can go and pick up their case. So literally they can just go and click in and then assign that case to them, and then they are actively working on it. So when you're just going back to creating cases, there's a couple of things that you might want to look at. Is the type. I think you probably need to update that so that was relevant to you, and origin. So do you need any other origins populated? This one here, web. Out of the box, you will get the web to case feature, which is what we talked about with leads. So you can actually have HTML code on your website, so that when someone fills in that form around support, issues, complaints, etc., it can actually create a case automatically in Salesforce for you, with the origin being web. The important thing then would be to work with the new, so the web, the case status equaling new, and the case origin being web, because you might be looking at perhaps people that have lodged something on a Friday or over the weekend, and you don't want too far into Monday to go in without having acknowledged these web and these new web cases. So on the back of that, you could automate an email to the customer to thank them and to say how, what's your turnaround, your typical turnaround. Expect to hear from us within X amount of time. So you could actually do that on the case form itself. And then as the case progresses, perhaps someone's picked it up and they've assigned it out of the queue and into their ownership, then you could fire another email off to say to the customer, your case is being looked at. This is the case number. So what happens is once you've saved a new case, or once a case has been created automatically, it will be given a case number, and you can configure this to suit your terminology. But at least then you could send the customer their reference number. So then the customer has their information, and your guys in the customer services team have everything that they need. You can build out case list views just like you can with everything else. You could do it around priorities or time and date and different statuses. And then you can also go ahead and go and create some reports and dashboards based off the origin, the timeliness. Because this is a date and time field, you could actually do some calculation fields, so to work out, what was your turnaround time to actually receive it, start working on it, etc. The other thing is if you're using cases to perhaps around compensation, you could run a report that specifies number of cases, how they came in, and resolution. Case reason was another field that comes up. So you can specify on there what was the reason for the case closing, or and well, yeah, you can update that essentially. So where am I going with this? So I wanted to show you this 360 view and why it's so beneficial. So we're logged in, obviously, from a service point of view. We're managing these. We might be creating them. We might be reviewing what's come in via the web. Or the phone might be ringing, and we're logging them manually. So number one, when you roll this out, make sure that everyone in the organisation has been shown how to, if they need to create one, how they do it. If they need to look somebody up, someone rings in or sends an email to go and search for that person. And if they don't exist, you'll need to create them, and then you can create the case, because basically you can look up the contact and the relevant account that it all is applicable to. So we'll start with the sales team. So the sales team will probably be using Salesforce through the sales app. So they have a bit of a different view, and they won't be going directly to what someone's issue. They're going to be looking at their contacts list and opportunities list and leads list and things that are going to make them, dollar productive. So they may have their Monday morning contacts list open, and they're going to start working through that. So the first one, they might go to this guy here, make their phone calls, log the activity, log the call that he's made, and everything's pretty good, because at the moment we don't have an opportunity with him, whatever. So that's all cool. But that's the thing with Andy, we can see everything that's going on or not going on. There's been no activity, and there's nothing happening elsewhere. So the salesperson might go back to their contact list, and now we need to ring Jack, because he's next in line on my segmentation for Monday morning callbacks or something. Oh, there's a lot more going on Jack's record. So we can already see he's lodged 2 issues with us. He's got 2 cases. So we can actually view them all. So before the salesperson rings, he can go and view them, and he can quite clearly see they're actually closed issues. But at least I've now got the power as a salesperson to know we've had a couple of issues in the past. Maybe I want to tell him about some of the improvements we've made to this, this product now, and give him an update and really tune that conversation, because they can now reassure them that we've made changes or whatever. I mean, I'm making things up on the spot here, but it's just giving that visibility to a salesperson that they've had previous issues with us. They've been resolved. We can even click into it to see, well, what was the resolution, and who solved it. I might go away and chat to them first before I go and make my Monday morning phone call to these guys. So it also does relate to the account. So if you're not from a contact point of view, you can be a bit more high level and go and look at the account overall and see what's happening. So it's like, look, we've got someone to talk to there. They've got an opportunity, actually, this is what we sold them and when. And obviously the 2 cases that we saw. You can also upload, if there was some sort of documentation or approval sign off or what have you, that can be uploaded onto the file. Where this is useful is particularly if you have someone on reception, and they really don't need a lot of training on this, because if the phone rings and we heard what name and number and name and company it is, they can search for them, and very quickly they get a summary of what's going on. And if these were live cases, of course, they would say that they were open, and we could go and see who owns it, and perhaps if the inbound phone call is, I just I really want to check up on what's happening with my case, they can, very efficiently put it into the right person. The person on, the receptionist isn't umming and ahhing about, oh God, I don't know what to do. I don't know. They've got that 360 degree. Maybe they don't need the permissions to create new things, but at least they can see all the information. So that is yet another benefit, to be able to really see what is going on with a company. The other use case, perhaps for cases, might be you've got an issue with the client. So like with all the other objects, you can create case record types as well. So you could actually have more one that's around internal issues. So potentially this account hasn't paid. Maybe they've got a subscription to us or something, and this month the payment hasn't come out. You might now go and create a case internally. Say, we've got an issue, it's this record type, it's a payment record, so that when the sales team get to that Monday morning meeting and there's an open case to say, actually it's us that's with the problem, they haven't paid. Again, you can either have a bit of a conversation before the phone call's made, but it's just giving you that power and know which way to steer a conversation because the information exists. The other department to bring into this is marketing. So marketing will, of course, be sending campaigns, whether it's direct mailers or email or, yeah, the kind of touch points directly with our database that we have. And, sorry, I have to just move this out of my way. They're going to need to know if there's a current problem with a particular lead or contact that they wish to send a campaign to. I jumped into the back end because Salesforce gives you some out-of-the-box reports, but I created a custom report called Contacts with or Without Cases. So this report now shows me all of our contacts in the system, but it shows them with and without cases. So I've got contacts in here that don't have a problem, and I have contacts that in here that have had closed issues or current open ones. And the beauty is that you can export this report if you like to a CSV or Excel. So if you need to cleanse it even more, you can. You can still cleanse it even more in Salesforce without the export because you can create filters and segment it. And put some logic in here as well to really pinpoint the people that you do wish to send this to. And that there, again, it means you're making more clear and pinpoint marketing decisions, communication decisions that are relevant, because there wouldn't be anything worse than someone ringing up or complaining to say, I'm getting too much marketing, and they've got a case on their customer record, but you continue to market to them. So this would be another, if they haven't unsubscribed and maybe it's direct mail that they don't wish to get, you can add that as a case. You can add it to other ways in handling the data side of things on the actual contact record. But it's just more information now to the marketing team. So if the marketing team wanted to send a generic message, which they actually don't mind it going to everybody, then they can send it. But if there were certain things where it's like, oh, if we've got people with a current problem with us, or there's a billing issue, or there's something, we can now give that information to the marketing team to omit those people from unnecessary marketing being sent. So it's just about being wiser, but also the fact that you've got this information and they can have it too. And again, they may not need to create the cases, but they should be able to, see a summary of them or be able to run a report like this. So this edition of Salesforce I'm in at the moment is a developer edition. It gives access to play around with how Salesforce looks and feels, and you need a developer edition for some of the Trailhead challenges. So within Trailhead, you can create playgrounds or you can create a developer org. So this gives us edition level access to have a really good play with Salesforce. So this was essentially what I wanted to be able to show, that most editions of Salesforce have cases, but it now introduces you into this world of thinking past the sales cycle and ongoing support to our customers and subscribers and handling issues that they might have. But the biggest component is probably one of your decisions for buying a CRM in the first place is actually being able to look in a snapshot of a customer or potential customer and see what's happening and be able to share it amongst your organization so that you can make more productive, precise and personable activities that no one's getting things that they shouldn't be getting. marketing get what they get. The sales team can absolutely mold their conversation because it's all there in front of them, and you're making frontline teams more efficient because they can see things that possibly could be an issue, or they've got the power to be able to raise things, you know, as someone's interacting with them as well. So, like I said, it was just a brief overview on what cases can do for your organisation. It comes with what we mentioned in the lead video. And the lead video, I talked about web to lead, which was when we created HTML code that gets dropped onto your website so that an inquiry can be automatically brought into Salesforce as a new lead. So out of the box, same thing with cases. Cases comes with web to case. And basically, that way you are getting your cases generated within Salesforce immediately. If you've set up your automation in the back end, it means that you've got workflow that can happen because your customer can get a thank you email straight away, and it's expected time of receiving a response. And then any other automation around this person needs to be contacted because it's still sitting as new and it came to our website on this date, etc. So same place as before as well. So if you go to your setup and then you go to click on web to case, I'll just have to type in web maybe. That was a bit too, oops. And it's the HTML generator. So what you need to know is what fields are you going to capture on the web page, and have you got them available in Salesforce? Because if you don't, you're going to have to create them. You have to configure them, basically create custom fields, and then they'll become available for you to select. Then whatever you do select, that should map to your customer support form, or whatever you want to call it. The other thing to think about is making sure you've resourced enough time with your web development team to apply this HTML code to your website. And the second thing is there anything that you wish to be populated as default by your web team? Because they can do that through hidden fields in the back end. So one might be the status. So you might want the status being populated default as new. The other thing might be origin. Actually, origin will already be populated with web. So you'll get the status already populated with new, but you'll need to tell your web dev that. And case origin, because of the HTML, that will already come through as web, which is great. You might need to create multiple of these if you've got multiple entry points to your website as well. Ask your web development who the return URL should be, and then also ask them, do they handle the reCAPTCHA, which is like the bot protection and spam protection, or not? And if not, then you can just click and generate. This you won't be able to save. It doesn't ever save a copy of it in Salesforce. You'll actually have to copy this and paste it probably into a notepad or text app on your desktop, and then send that across to your, save it and send it across to your web developer, because they'll need this to make that happen for you. But that's also, it just, again, it automates things and it makes it flow. And I think that's the whole purpose when you look at cloud-based products, is how much can you automate, how much now can just be, populating and firing off a task or an email alert to say this is now here and ready for your guys to start working on. The other thing I did mention was queues, and that is something that you'll have to set up separately. But essentially, think about if you want that sort of distribution type vibe where there is cases are going to be assigned to a particular queue, and then just Salesforce users will be added to that queue, because you'll have to set it up prior to the web cases being generated, so that the case knows who to be assigned to as part of the case assignment rule, I suppose. Definitely think about that in your planning. So I hope this quick video was useful. I always say that, but that's the purpose of why I'm doing this, because it is baseline information on, because there's so much to this platform. I mentioned this was a 12 days Salesforce series. So 12 videos that introduce areas of Salesforce that how and they can be applied to a organization or an organization, correct English. So yes, and it's been a bit of a journey because I think we're about halfway through this series now, and everything that I've been digging into and wanting and lining up with which videos I want to do next, I've now created an ebook. So it's a downloadable ebook that goes through questions to ask, things to include in your planning, and it's all available over at our blog on uniquelycloud.com. And it's there to provide that information before you make a big commitment, because it is a commitment with a CRM, because it should be now part of your longevity and what you want. Or you need to want to think about what you want out of the system and better ways of working. So particularly in sales environments where literally admin time needs to just be kept to the minimum, and how much of this stuff can be automated. So literally your guys can be on the phone, whether it's a lead or your service teams can be on the phone because it's a problem. So yeah, looking forward to the next video, and my schedule being Wednesday and Sunday videos. And yeah, there's still lots to get through, and I really appreciate you joining me and sticking with the series. And I'll see you in the next video.